Thanks for waking up with us.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Stand Focused for Jesus. Hope each and every one of you are having a blessed day in the Lord Jesus Christ as always. So we're going to take a look at this video, and then we're going to look at some scriptures and look at some other things. As you see from the title of the video, The Road of No Return, Slavery in Benin. There are many people out there that have the audacity to make such a claim that we didn't come over on slave ships, when there is mounds and mounds and mounds and mounds of evidence to support that there were actual slave ships, even though the slave ships are not around anymore because they end up destroying them and some other things. But just historical evidence, artifacts that have been confirmed are legit. And one of these artifacts that, if they're going to make the claim that we did not come over on slave ships, if they're going to make that argument, then they need to go address the road of no return. They need to go address this gate. It's actually 4 gates they have over there, which is pretty interesting, because God said that he would scatter us to the 4 corners of the world, and you have these 4 gates over in Africa. They need to go address that. They need to go debunk that. They need to go debunk that before they talk about they're actually debunking something and that we did not come over on slave ships. And the whole point is because they want to lead you to other gods, and they want you to take on another identity that is not really yours, and maybe that is your identity. But ultimately, Psalm 33, all nations are confederate against Israel, because these people, even these people that primarily, that's who I'm addressing primarily, the ones who look like us, what we call black, they don't want us to be in the position far more than the white man or the white woman. I know that may be hard for some of you to understand because you're always pointing the finger at the white man, but you refuse to look at your own people when it was in fact our own people who sold us off to the white man. But that's the main thing that we should be addressing. We should be addressing our people first and foremost before we are addressing the white man, because we don't get in the situation that we are in, obviously, if we're not disobedient. But we don't get in the situation without the help of our own brothers and sisters, that rather they are from Israel, literal Israelites, or rather they look like us. We don't get over here into captivity without their help and that system of slavery being taught to the white man in what we know as the transatlantic slave trade. So it's just crazy. It's crazy that we'll sit here and we address the white man all day, but then we give our own people a free pass when the artifacts and the gates or whatnot are still up to date. Like, it's mind-boggling. But we rather side with somebody simply because they look like us instead of siding with the side of truth, siding with righteousness. Rather, it is a white person that is walking in righteousness, walking in the Spirit of God. We rather side with the black person, even though this black person has done us wrong, and maybe a lot of times has done us even more wrong than the white person, simply because, hey, this person is black, I'm siding with this person, even though this white person ain't did nothing to you. They trying to help you out. Now, is that the case every time? No. But it's the truth. We'll side with our own people, and they can be in the wrong. You have family that's molesting this person, molesting that person, and we won't say nothing. Because, hey, that's family. We're going to keep it in the family. But you ain't, even if you keep it in the family, you still ain't addressing it. You still ain't addressing this person. You still ain't rectifying the situation. Like, man, our mentality is just so screwed up. So screwed up. But then when the dude down the street or whatever, white dude down the street, you find out he a pedophile, or whatever, you see somebody on TV, then all hell break loose. Oh, this is a pedophile. We gonna beat the brakes off him, whatever. But you ain't beat the brakes off of your uncle when you know your uncle was molesting your niece or nephew, or even your daughter or son or whatever. But you ain't gonna beat the brakes off of them though. Like, come on, man. And you sit here and you hide it, and our people allowed this to go on for generations and generations and generations and generations. But as soon as somebody else does it, we ready to jump down on them and say, look at these folk, they nasty, this and that, this and that. But we don't address it in our own community, which is hypocrisy, which is why we get the greater judgment, because we know better. We know better. So let's check the video out. I'm going to be pausing it throughout the video to give a little bit of commentary. So.
Okay, it's a hot day today, and we're about to go over this road, and what they're saying, this is the road of where the slaves went, the road of no return. So, Nini, just tell us some things about where we're about to go.
Okay, we go to the ocean where they put the slaves in the ships, but the slaves came from the interior. They were bought from the chiefs, from the kings in the interior, and the king got in return cannons and weapons.
Did you hear what I said? They got the slaves from the chiefs and the kings. So the chiefs and the kings from the interior of Africa, we also know other parts, they were selling people off. They were selling our people off. They were even selling their own people off, because some of these rulers, they were not what we would consider, say, are Israelites. Now, there were Israelites involved in this, but some of these were from the lineage of Ham, that were chiefs and kings, and they knew who we were, and they sold us off. So, you got to study this overall in history. You just can't take one part and say, this is it. There were people that weren't Hebrews that was on the slave ship. There were Muslims on the slave ship. Some of you don't even know. You look up to the movie Roots. Now I realize that Kunta Kinte was a Muslim. Some of you don't even know that Kunta Kinte was a Muslim, a professing Muslim. Out of his own mouth, he even says it in Roots. He's giving glory and praise to Allah, his God. And we ain't talking about Allah generically, Allah meaning God, but we talking about the Allah of Islam. Now, how do I know that? Because I actually researched Kunta Kinte. I just don't watch a movie or whatever because, it's a good movie, or it's speaking some truth or whatever, and you can get something out of it. I want to know the backstory to the characters and all that. And then y'all sitting here, y'all jump on this stuff, and then you exalt these people while you're professing to be a Hebrew, or you're professing to, lay hold to the scriptures, but then you're looking up to Kunta Kinte, who was a Muslim. You look up to, what's that lady's name? Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, who was a professing Muslim. But y'all exalting this woman. How you going to exalt her, but you claiming the Hebrew faith? You claiming the faith of the scripture. You claiming the faith of the prophets and everything. They would never. So, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Now, if you don't profess the Bible, you don't follow the Bible, you're not claiming to be a Hebrew Israelite of that lineage, then it don't matter. That doesn't apply to you. That doesn't apply to you. But we got those who are professing to be Hebrews that are, Harriet Tubman, this and that, this and that. Harriet Tubman was a Muslim. Kunta Kinte was a Muslim. So there were Muslims on the ships too. Was Kunta Kinte a Hebrew Israelite? And then he professed that faith? I don't know. Rather, he was or wasn't. The Negro still professed to be a Muslim. So to me, he was worshiping false God, because I don't rock with Islam. I don't rock with Islam. And Islam traces itself back to Abraham and Hagar, aka Ishmael. That's who Muhammad traces his lineage back to. We know Hagar was a Egyptian. So I told y'all this before, and I even shared the video where the I think old slave Charlie, he was talking about how they got a lot of the slaves on the ship. Now, I'm not saying that was the only way they got the slaves on the ship, but the testimony of this slave who came over from Africa on the ship, he said that they tricked them to get on the ship, and it was his own people who tricked him to get on that ship. He said it was more so his own people that tricked him to get on the ship. Obviously, there was white people there because they were the ones that primarily had those ships and stuff like that. But he said it was more so his own people that tricked him to get on the ship and sent him over here. That's why he didn't really rock with black folks when he got to America, because the white people that he was around when he came to America, they treated him better than the black people that he knew on the ship, or the black people he was around, and the black people that led him on that ship. Because what they were doing was they would tell him, hey, we're going to send you over here to get a job, over here for work. And so they would act like they were giving them a tour of the ship, showing them everything. This is the ship you're going to be on. We're going to provide food for you, housing, all this other stuff, what we call today per diem. Imagine you going to, go for a job. They're telling you about this job, and that, you go there and they say, hey, we're going to give you a tour of our plant or whatever. And then this plant is taking you and everybody that appears, and then, then you disappearing, and they selling you off into captivity. You go on there to see, see how everything operates and see if you want to actually do it. Like, hey, we're going to send you over here or whatever, blase, blase. And then, you disappeared and they sent you off into captivity or whatnot. That was being done by our own people. We even see that in the scriptures with, who is it? Joseph. I think it's Joseph, if my memory recalls me correctly. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Somebody know who I'm talking about. But it was his own brothers that sent him off into captivity. It was his own brothers that did it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, God worked through that. But does that mean that what they did was right? No. It just means that the story had to be told and played out the way that it was played out, because none of that happens if Israel is obedient. None of that happens if Adam and Eve are obedient. None of this stuff happens. But because it happened the way it happened, it has to play out the way that it is playing out. So let's continue forward.
Wow. And so literally they were walking this way to get on the ship. And can you imagine the things in which they were thinking going through their head, going to the ship, and this is a place of no return?
Pour toute l'Afrique,
For all the Africa,
il y a 4 ports.
for all the in all Africa, they have 4 gates. The population of the slave that went out here through this gate was the most. slaves.
So he's telling them that this was all over Africa, and they have these gates, these you know what I'm saying, portals. In a way, they're portals to other, you could say, other world, because you know a lot of you know, our people during that time period, unless they were learned and they knew certain things because they were plugged in, they didn't know about the Americas and stuff like that. Now there were certain people that knew about it, but everybody don't know about everything, man. Everybody don't know about everything. Like I don't know everything, but I know what I know. You know, because who I'm plugged into. I'm plugged into Christ. I'm plugged into God. I'm plugged in with people that have, you know, access to you know, knowledge and stuff like that, that others may be like, hey, where'd you get that from? So there's a group of people out here that are black, and you know, they're ignorant to a whole bunch of stuff. So a lot of people would think that America is this new land, and go over here and you think about it. This gate was like, in a way, it was a portal. So you have this water, you have this ship, just like you have a space ship, and we know that space is water. So a spaceship is literally like a submarine. And then you have this you know, this ship that sits on top of the water. And you have the people climbing into it, being put into it, and then they're going through this gate, this portal, this gateway to another dimension, another world. You know, the world of America, where things are completely different. It's a nightmare. It's a living hell in comparison to where they're coming from. So even that is what we call a microcosm of something macro, something greater. It's a, you know, it's a microcosm of like kind of like time travel and traveling to another world, another what we say, you know, in modern day term, another dimension. And that was, you know, kind of like that. You know, symbolic of that.
When they did not have enough chains, they cut a tree, they made a log out of it, and they cut three holes in it.
Came from.
And they put three holes, and they put the log on top of their head, so that the three stay together, walk together behind each other.
How many people were side by side?
600 walked side by side.
You know, it's like,
It's interesting that the number was 600. It's very, very interesting. But did you hear what the lady was saying? She said that they would cut a hole in the tree. And you think about it, that's symbolic, because that's it's like curses every man that hang from a tree. You're hanging from a tree. You got a tree on your neck, and that tree is hanging on you. You know, so that's even symbolic in itself, with what Christ went through, and you know, some other things that we know went on in American history with lynchings and you know, hanging from trees and stuff like that. Those are all signs, as it tells us in the book of Deuteronomy that we will read in a little bit, that these things would happen. He said that these signs would be upon you, or these curses would be upon you, upon our people, upon our seed forever. It says forever, as a sign and as a wonder. Now, it's forever if you don't come from under the curse. Once you come from under the curse in Christ, then you're no longer under that curse. But our people being hung from trees was a sign and a wonder. It was a sign and a wonder pointing to, hey, these people are cursed, and they are cursed because they have turned away from their God, which is why the curse was put on us in the first place, for our disobedience. And we are still doing the same thing. And we wonder why things keep on getting worse for us and not better. They keep on getting worse for us and not better. We're going to address some of those things also, but let's keep on pushing forward.
arrow. It means that this road that you come through, it have only one entry. That is no returning back, is the unknown destination. During that route here, all sorts of things happen with the slaves. They can sleep with them, they can beat them, they can do so many things there. Violence.
So this is still in Africa, where he said that the slaves were being raped, they were being beaten All these different things were happening to the slaves still in Africa. So you're telling me that this was only the white man that was doing that when they were still in Africa being about to be sent to America? Come on, man. It was our own people that was doing this. Rather they were our own people because they were Hebrews, or rather they were our own people because they looked like us. It was our own people that was doing this. So first, before we address anything with the white man and slavery, we must address our own people. We must address our own people. So y'all sitting there, you got your hand out wanting reparations from the white man. What about the reparations for your own people that sent you off and sold you to the white man? Why we ain't asking for reparation from our own people when Africa is so rich? You know what I'm saying? People talking about going back to Africa and everything. No, you need to set me up with something nice. You talking about going back to Africa. You want me, see, this is what they want. They want us who are in America to bring the knowledge that we have gained here in America back to Africa to help build Africa back up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want me? No, it ain't going down like that. Because if that's the case, I can do that here. I can do that here. So if you want me to do that, then either I'm coming on my own terms with my own money, because I ain't going back to Africa broke. If I want to be broke, then I can stay in America and be broke, because at least I'm familiar with my environment. I'm familiar with my territory. I'm familiar with my enemy and everything. I know how the system works. I'm not finna go move to Africa and then be broke. That's foolish. That's foolish. Now I go over to Africa if I got some money in my pocket, or first and foremost, if the Lord leads me. But just talking about going to Africa without no money, nah. Only way I go over there like that, if one, the Lord tells me to go over there. Hey, you don't need no money, I got you. Or two, I got some bread and I want to go over there because I want to do some different things, because the opportunities, you know what I'm saying, are a little bit different than they are over here. But our own people need to be paying reparations. That's scriptural. That's scriptural. That's Bible. That's according to the Old Testament and New Testament. So they want us to come over there with that knowledge to help build Africa. Then hey, I need a stake in this manufacturing plant or whatever, or I need a piece of land. And I'm talking about free and clear. I ain't talking about this garbage they be having going on over here in Africa with this land stuff, these land scams they be doing and everything like that. I ain't talking about none of all that stuff. And it be free and clear. I need a house built, or something. Because if I got a house built, you give me a house, that house is worth something. So I could take the equity out the house, or I can, flip the house or something. But just talking about coming over there, no, it ain't going down like that. I ain't stupid. Some of y'all stupid. Some of you stupid, they're gonna get you. You're gonna be over there looking like Boo Boo the Fool. Ain't gonna have no way to get back. No, it ain't going down like that. If we talking about reparations, I need my reparations from the white man. I need my reparations from the black man. I need all mines. All mines.
On peut dire l'abolition en 1848. Mais en 1846, c'est le dernier bateau.
The last ship went on 1846, and it was then they don't got any other ship came in for slavery.
Allegedly, it just wasn't mainstream like it was back then, because slavery still goes on today. We know that.
Ici, sur les 4 poteaux, il y a hommes et femmes qui sont en genoux.
In all this, you see men and women, men and women, in the fort.
They put a tattooage, they burn it in the back here. The name of the master.
When they do that, they cry. So they go now and buy some iron to close their mouths.
And so that's where you get that from, because of the cries, the screams, the heart-wrenching cries and screams of the people that were, screaming and crying because they were literally about to be sent into a living hell, where their mouths were shut with iron. That's where that came from. And the crazy thing is, the Bible even prophesies that. The Bible prophesies that. But no, the Bible ain't true, we weren't sent to captivity. Many people got y'all deceived. They got y'all deceived. And y'all believing them, eating it up like gullible guppies.
Yeah, that's why they are baptists.
Before they planted the tree, you can see on the picture on the wall there, they buried a person alive, and then they planted the tree.
Alive, and they plant the seed. Is how he died. So his spirit will be communicating with the spirit of the slave who died over there. So that's how their spirit, when they die there, their spirit will come back here. When you go to Gore, that is in Senegal.
No, we ain't getting down with all that. we ain't getting down with all that. Talking about that they buried the person alive and then they put a seed on top of them, and then it became a tree, and then their spirit communicates with the ancestors. For some people, yeah, but for us, no, we don't have to. We don't have to do that. We know what went on. I don't have to communicate with the dead to know what is going on now or what happened. You know, just think about that. Why are you communicating with the dead? Why are you communicating with familiar spirits to try to figure out what happened? Because you think about it, people are lazy. People are lazy. They rather go communicate with the dead and make themselves seem like there's something great instead of opening up a book and reading or doing some research or, you know, putting the work in. Or, hey, asking God to show you and lead you and guide you. And he said that he will, if you ask for wisdom, if you ask for knowledge, he will not only give it to you, but he will give it to you liberally. He said he give it to all men. So that all men doesn't just include saved people. That's why the lost are so wise, because they ask for knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and God grants them that. He grants them that. They don't realize that it's being granted so that his will could be fulfilled, but he does grant them that. I don't need to communicate with no dead. I don't need to communicate with no dead. I'm living. I have more power than the dead. I'm living in Christ, and I'm living here on this earth. So I don't need to communicate with the dead to try to get no knowledge. If I want to know what they went through, there's millions and millions and millions of books. Instead of trying to get myself involved in something that I don't even have an understanding on, and then wonder why I'm being tormented. And even some of y'all, you're reading books that you ain't got no business, and you're applying it like, yeah, I'm gonna apply this, but you ain't got the spirit. You ain't got the spirit to know what to apply and what not to apply, because you ain't got no discernment. Just being real.
Or you go to Ghana, Elmina, and all these other slavery gates, you will see some small houses where they keep the slave before they took them. But in Benin, they have no houses. They don't want to leave any trace, any sign, because they know that if they leave sign, it's going to be terrible.
So in Benin, they didn't want to leave no trace that it ever happened. They wanted to erase it from their memory because they knew they was wrong. They knew they was wrong.
Although we are coming as God's Green Africa and we want to do resources and things like that, it is important that you understand the history of the country that you're going in. But can you imagine the people walking from here and the thoughts of what's going on in their mind?
And she made a very excellent point. Y'all talking about going to these African countries, you don't even know the history. You don't know the history of it. Because if they still trying to hide the history, they ain't want to address it. They don't want to, you know what I'm saying, make things right financially in other ways or whatever. An apology ain't good enough. Y'all say it ain't good enough when it comes to the white man. It ain't good enough if it comes to black people, either just simply because they black. Especially when they don't really mean it. They just trying to do it for the benefit. A lot of them trying to do it for the benefit of themselves. That ain't good enough. You know? So it's important that we understand the history of what went on in these African nations while we sitting here exalting Africa. You know, that's my land. But guess what? Latin America, South America, North America, Europe, Asia, all that's mine. All of it's mine. The whole world is mine. The whole universe, galaxies, everything is mine. Why? Because I'm a joint heir with Christ, and that's what Christ said. So, let's go to our next point. I think we're going to go to the scriptures, and then we're going to address some of the curses, and we're going to address some other stuff that we see today, and see if these things that are mentioned in the curses are applicable today. We're going to see if they at least apply to us today. Because if we can at least make the argument that they can apply to us, then we at least have a case, we have an argument to make a claim that we are the people of the scriptures. That we are the people of the scriptures. So let me also add this, because I know somebody's out there thinking like, because I mentioned this before, and what people are doing today is they're bringing up white slavery to come against black slavery. And the point that I made before with this is, if two people go into Burger King and they order the same meal, they order number one. When you go in there, you go to Burger King, you order your meal, what do they ask you? They ask for your last name. They ask for your name. Can I have a name, please? King. King, right? So the next person comes up, they order the same thing, exact same way. So you're like, dang, they ordered the same thing I got. Exact same meal, no onions, extra cheese, extra pickles, extra everything, right? Boom. They gonna call my name, King, and they gonna call whoever, let's say, Tom. Tom, your meal is ready. Me and Tom have ordered the same thing, right? So if somebody comes in there and they come fighting or whatever, something breaks out, shooting or whatnot, he's going to give his testimony about what happened from his perspective. Yeah, I went to Burger King. I was in Burger King around 5:05 or whatever. This is what I ordered. Then they're going to ask me, and they're going to ask him for my statement or to give a testimony. Yeah, I went to Burger King. I arrived around this time. I sat in my car. I was in Burger King, around 5:05. We're telling the same thing, but we're telling it from our perspective. Now, if Tom says that, hey, he wasn't there, and Tom is trying to come against my story because he has a motive for whatever reason, maybe trying to get some money out of it, maybe Tom was in on it or whatever. Hey, it could be the other way around. Maybe I'm the one coming against Tom and saying, Tom wasn't there, that ain't how it went down, blase, blase. You must ask yourself, well, what is the motive? Because we have at least enough evidence to prove that both Tom and Kelson, they were at Burger King around the same time. So what's going on? So now I become a suspect, or Tom becomes a suspect, because what I'm saying doesn't make any sense, or what he's saying doesn't make any sense. So I tell you that because people will bring up all type of stuff, but just bear with me. They will bring up white slavery and they say, oh, yeah, blacks were enslaved, but white slavery was just as bad as black slavery. And they will try to diminish us being in captivity and what the scriptures say about us by exalting their story, making their story of slavery seem like it's greater or on the same level as black slavery. We know that there were white people in captivity. We know that there were white people in slavery. We know that there was probably a few white people on those slave ships that had attached themselves to Israel, because we see that throughout history. We see that in the scriptures, where there were foreigners, where there were Gentiles, where there were people from other nations that attached themselves to Israel. So therefore, because they attached themselves to Israel and they bound themselves to the laws of the Old Testament, then they would suffer some of the same things. We know that. We know that there were also Christians who went over into captivity, who were bound and chained up with the slaves too. We know that. I'm going to tell you all the story. These people ain't going to tell you all the story. But you can't sit and say, oh, it was the white people that was enslaved. We have evidence for it. So your story doesn't matter. We didn't say that white people didn't go into captivity. We're saying that our captivity specifically applies to the scriptures. That's what we are saying, and we can prove it from every single point. I'm not saying that Tom wasn't there. What I'm saying is Tom is lying about what happened for whatever reason. Or on the flip side, Tom is saying, I'm not saying that this guy right here is a black guy. You say his name is what, Kelson? I'm not saying that Kelson was there. But what I'm saying is that what Kelson is saying, that's not the way that it went down. And so that's what we are saying. The way that history, we're going to say, the way that Eurocentric history is telling people how things went down, it did not go down that way. We know certain things happened. We know there was white slavery. We know that, hey, whites are being enslaved today. But we talking about our slavery in the context of the scriptures, and that this applies directly to us. We was both in Burger King. Yes, you know what I'm saying? There was other people enslaved. Yes, we know that. But we talking about from our perspective and why it matters in regards to Bible prophecy. So, excuse me. So, yeah, let me go on to, my next point, and we're going to keep it moving. So we are in the famous Deuteronomy chapter 28. We're not going to read all of it, but we're going to go down and we're going to pick up in verse 13. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. So the key to all that is not going after other gods to serve them. You could very well be talking about you keeping this, you keeping it, you doing this, you doing that. But if you're going after other gods to serve them, then guess what? You are in disobedience. The number one commandment, to love your Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is likened unto it, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. The first commandment deal with the first set of commandments was deal with not worshiping false gods. So, why did we go into captivity? Not necessarily because of us breaking the Old Testament laws, but more so because, which is still ties together, but more so because we went and we worshiped other gods while we were still doing the things of God. We were still doing the sacrifices. We were still trying to keep the feast days and all these other things. We see that in the book of Malachi. We see that in other places of the scriptures where God, the Lord talks about and speaks about that your feast days are an abomination to me. I can't stand them. He pretty much saying, I can't stand you because of your hypocrisy. You have blood in your hands, all these different things. Your songs, don't even sound the same no more. It's like scratching a chalkboard instead of, a heavenly sound. Because of us going out there and worshiping other gods. And as I said earlier, here we are in 2021 still doing the same thing, which is why we're going to have the time of Jacob's trouble. Because we continue to be in rebellion as a people, as a whole, we continue to be rebellious, worshiping and going after false gods, while claiming that we serve and worship the Most High God. So, but it shall come to pass, if thou would not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and all his statutes which I command thee this day, that these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So they wouldn't only come upon us, but they will overtake us. They will overtake us, right? Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. No matter where you go, he said you're going to be cursed. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Everything that you put forth is going to be cursed because you yourself are cursed. Your children are going to be cursed. The fruit of your land is going to be cursed. The increase of your people is going to be cursed. The flocks of your sheep is going to be cursed. Everything you touch is going to be cursed. Everything that comes forth from you is going to be cursed. It's going to be a cursing to you because it could, what's a cursing to you could be a blessing for somebody else because they're going to come in and take what you got. And then they're going to, get rich off of it, which is what they did. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. This doesn't apply to the people in the land. These people are prospering. But then people tell you that you don't have the right to make an argument that these aren't the people. I have every right. I have every right to make the argument that those people in the land are not the people. They don't fit these curses, and they never will. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do. He said, everything you put your hand to do is going to be cursed. Until what? Until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. So he tells you why we are going through what we are going through. He tells you that. But for some odd reason, we still ain't getting it. Oh, why we getting killed in the streets? He tell you right here why we getting shot down and gunned in the streets like dogs. Because we acted like dogs. We acted like prostitutes going and whoring after other gods. So that's why we get gunned down in the street like dogs. Matter of fact, that's why we get gunned down and we get killed in the streets worse than dogs. People treat their dogs better than they treat us. Because God said that was going to happen. And he tells you why. So if you want the problem rectified, here's the solution. Repent and believe the gospel. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it. No matter where we go, the pestilence. Go look at the diseases amongst just African Americans alone. All the diseases that we are plagued with. You got diseases that they affect other people, but they affect us so much. It's known as a black disease. Sickle cell is known as a black disease. Even though other people can't get it, it's known as the black disease. And so many others. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption and with a fever. Interesting, he says fever, because what is one of the symptoms of COVID-19 is that fever and everything else that comes along with it. And who is affected overall, not only financially, but emotionally and physically by COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever, is black people. It's the black people. And with an inflammation, diabetes and all that stuff is the inflammation. Osteoporosis, inflammation of the joints. All these things are inflammations, forms of inflammation. Go look it up. And with an extreme burning and with the sword. The sword, that's physical death, but that's also talking about laws. Because the word tells us that the word is a sword. So in the land of our captivity, they have passed all these laws to continue to suppress and oppress us. Because God allowed it to be such because of our disobedience. That's why they keep on coming out with more and more laws. And we keep on being more and more oppressed and suppressed. We get broker and broker as the days go by. We get broker and broker. So it goes on, it says, and with blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Mildew is a form of, it's like a parasite. It's like a parasite. The mildew you're talking about is like a parasite. We affected by parasites and stuff like that. You know, in our intestines and in everything. Just go look at the diseases and see how these diseases affect us more than it does other people. And then you must ask yourself why. I just gave you the answer right here. But you got people that want to tell you that you're a heretic if you say this applies to us and doesn't apply to the people over in the land of Israel, because it doesn't. Those people are prospering. How are they continually being disobedient, and they keep on prospering? But you're saying they're God's people, which goes against the scriptures, because God doesn't bless his people when they keep on being disobedient. He drops the hammer on us. He sends the unclean spirits, the demons and devils, to attack us. He sends our enemies to rule over us. But you're saying that these people in the land, that those are God's people, even though they are prospering. They're prospering on every level. On a technological level, they're prospering. They're prospering with marijuana. They're prospering. We can go down the list in how these people are prospering in direct disobedience to God. Make it make sense. You gotta force it to make sense, because it doesn't make sense. Instead of just admitting that you were wrong. Hey, I was wrong too. I thought those were the people. I thought it ignorantly, but nonetheless, I still thought those were the people. I was wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with it. My wife tells me all the time. Ain't nothing wrong with admitting you wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with admitting you wrong. Just admit you wrong. So let's make it happen. Let's admit that we were wrong, and let's rectify the situation, and let's speak the truth, no matter what people are going to say. But we know that's not going to happen. Most people, they're not going to receive the truth, which is why most people are going to hell. So it goes on, it says, and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be as brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. You know, just, a prison. That's a prophecy in itself about, in the prison industrial complex, or however you want to put it. That's a prophecy about that. You got brass above you, you got, iron below you. We know how the ships was and everything. We know how they, the prisons were back in the day. And even today, you got the iron bars and stuff like that, above you and below you, to make sure that people don't get out. That's interesting. That's a prophecy about, us being, mass incarcerated. And only those who have eyes and ears to see can hear and see that. The Lord shall make the rain of thy powder, the Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. What did they just say in the video? They had these gates. They had these gates of no return all over Africa. And then we were sent into all the parts of the earth. And y'all seen the maps. You've seen the maps. I've broken down the maps on some of my videos. So we going in one way against them, and then we fleeing out seven way before them. And then what do you see when black people, one black person run, and what happens? All black people start running. Don't even know why you're running. Don't even know you ain't did nothing. You ain't did nothing, but you see one black person running, and you in a group, then you gonna take off running. More like you gonna take off running, you gonna take cover. You ain't got nothing to do with the situation. You gonna take off running, and then you gonna figure it out later, man. What was going on? And then y'all say this don't apply to us, man. Stop it. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. It's just on you to discern and and comprehend how that applies today. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. That's a prophecy about us lying dead in the streets. We were hung from trees, and then the birds and stuff, and then they were coming in, eating on us and everything. And nobody was making the birds and nothing go away. Nobody had respect for our bodies. To bury our bodies the proper way. Even now today, being shot in the streets, and then like the old dude that was shot in I forgot where he was at, but the guy that had his license for his gun, he had his girl in the car. I think he had his daughter or somebody in the car too. If I'm not mistaken, that may be a different situation, but some of you know what I'm talking about. And they shot him up, even though he was legit, and they didn't get the man no help. He sat there and died in the car. Nobody came for him. His carcass was meat, pretty much. So it goes on and says, the Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch whereof thou canst not be healed. You can sit there and say that's a prophecy about AIDS, STDs. Go look up botch. Go look up emerods. I think if I recall correctly, the root of it is talking what we know as hemorrhoids. With the scab and with the itch. Go look up what that stuff means. Let's talk about, parasites and stuff like that. When somebody has a disease or whatever, a sexually transmitted disease, they be itching, don't they? They be itching. They be itching on the inside, sometimes they be itching on the outside. It said, whereof thou canst not be healed. Obviously, there's some other things that are in that, but go look up and see who is more so being affected by STDs. I already gave you the answer about who it is. I already gave you the answer. It said you won't be able to be healed from it. These parasites and everything. AIDS, HIV, that's running rampant in our communities. More than is running rampant in other communities. I wonder why. All these diseases that are affecting black people that they don't have no cure for. No matter how much medicine and all the other stuff we take, we still ain't cured from it. People, I'm cured from cancer. They go through the chemotherapy and stuff like that, and then they end up getting something else. Like, dang, how they get that? Or they end up, dying from cancer again. They thinking that they healed. You can't run from it. You can try to. Man cannot heal you. Man ain't gonna heal you. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart, and thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So you can go to the doctors all you want to. That's why, you getting mad because we speaking against the vaccine or whatever. God just told you that no man is going to save you. The white man ain't going to save you with his vaccine. The black man ain't going to save you with his vaccine. Dr. CB ain't going to save you with his way of healing, his teachings and stuff like that. None of them are going to save you. I don't care how much knowledge, how much wisdom, how much understanding that they have in regards to the body. They cannot save you. Oh yeah, you may feel well, but when you take that last breath, we're going to see how well you really are. So you getting mad because we speaking against the vaccine, because you putting your trust in the man. The Bible says that anybody that does that, they are cursed. You're making man your strength. God is sitting there telling you that no man is going to save you. The COVID-19 vaccine ain't going to save you. Because I'm saying it, they may take the video down. I don't care. They can take it all they want to. All God going to do is raise somebody else up. They don't put no fear in my heart. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. We just heard about that in the video, and we know about how that went down in slavery. And it's still going on today. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. I mean, you're not going to reap the benefits of these different things. Excuse me. You're going to plant the vineyard. You're going to do all the work, but you don't own it. and we don't hardly own nothing. We don't hardly own nothing. Most of us are barely making it as it is. Most of us live, you know, in the old saying goes, man, I'm living check to check. Most of us ain't even living check to check. We live in half a check to half a check. You know what I'm saying? Just being real about it. Because of our disobedience. And even those of us who are in Christ, we still have to deal with this situation because we still in the situation. Yeah, we saved. Yeah, we born again. But we still going through stuff because God wants us to get it. That's why, you know, I always say this. I tell my wife this, and she'll tell you this. When we leave this earth and I get my new glorified body, I don't never want to forget what I went through. I don't never want to forget. If God grants me one request, which I know He's going to grant me many requests, but the number one request I would have is not the riches and, you know, all this other stuff. That's nice. But the number one request that I would probably have, and this is just, you know, from my growth over time. You know, as you grow, you want different things. You know, when you're younger, you know, you ain't thinking about no wife. You're thinking about, you know, saying, you know, getting your rocks off or whatever. But as you grow, you understand the importance of marriage and, you know, having children and all these different things. So, you know, your wants, they change. And so the same thing as I have matured in Christ, my wants in regards to what I want in the future, they have matured. Yeah, I want my throne. I want my gold and my jewels and everything. I want my chariots and stuff like that. I want to express myself in the way that God has made me to be able to express myself creatively. Yeah, creatively. Yeah. I want all that. I want all that. But like I was saying, you grow in wisdom. You grow in wisdom, and the one thing that I would say that I want over anything besides what's already promised is I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget where He brought me from. I don't never want to forget. I don't want to, you know, not forget in the sense of like, oh my God, I committed these sins or whatever. I don't want to forget where Christ brought me from. I don't never want to forget that because I am who I am today because of what He brought me through, what He delivered me from. So I never want to forget that. Because if I forget, then who says that I won't go do the same stupid stuff again? But if I remember what Christ brought me through, I'll be like, man, I'm not going back to that. That was terrible. I was living in the. You know, think about this. You get to heaven, and let's say somebody asks you, would you ever want to go back? Come on, man. You know that's obviously a rhetorical question. But somebody asks you when you're in heaven, would you ever want to go back and do it all over again? If I had to, I would. But nobody wants to go back when you realize that, hey, you were living in the worst time before the worst time ever. I don't think y'all really comprehend that. So let me say it one more time so it can sink in your soul and sink in your spirit. You are living in the worst time ever in the existence of mankind before the worst time ever. Because we know we have the time of Jacob's trouble coming up, and what's going to happen with that, where God, you know, God says that it's going to be a time that there was never a time like this. But the time period that you're living in now is the worst time ever until that time period comes. I don't never want to come back to this lifestyle that we're living in with, you know what I'm saying, with all this wickedness and all these different things going on. It's depressing. It's depressing sitting on my porch and I see people strung out on drugs walking down the street and they don't have a care in the world. It's depressing when I see children that ain't got no respect for their elders walking down the street. It's depressing thinking that I used to be one of those children that didn't have no respect for my elders. I hear cussing and stuff and this and that. That is depressing. It's depressing. It is straight up depressing. Now, it doesn't depress me to the state of actual depressing, but it's like it's very, very saddening. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It shouldn't be this way. I was outside standing on the porch the other day, and two white boys walking down the street, and every word that came out their mouth was a curse word. Cuss word, however you want to put it. Be this and be that, and you know what I'm saying, she ain't this and this and that, this and that. I know a lot of the stuff they got from us, from listening to rap, hip hop, because more white people buy rap than black folks. Just crazy, man. Crazy. I don't want to forget that. I don't never want to come back to it. So, continue forward, and it says, all these notifications I'm getting. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes. You're gonna kill your dog right in front of you, but if you kill a police dog or whatever, you know what I'm saying, on a humbug, because the dog bites you and you don't know it's a police dog, then you going to jail for life. But if they kick in your door or kill your dog, kill your animal, whatever, to hell with you, nigga. We don't give a damn about you. And thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. So God said ain't gonna be no restitution. Ain't gonna be no reparations. Y'all niggas got your hands out for reparations. You ain't getting no reparations from God. You can get reparations from the man. You see, y'all got the game twisted. Let me explain something to you. Let me break it down to you. You got two different type of reparations. You got reparations from the man, whether it's the white man or the black man. We are here in America, so when we say the man, we're mostly talking about the white man, because that's who's ruling over us. But it's not exclusive to the white man, because you got leaders all around the world. You got the black boule. You got the leaders in Africa who will be considered the man, that are oppressing the people. So you got reparations from the man, then you got reparations from God. Most of y'all Negroes, you got your hand out wanting these reparations from the man. Now, if the man giving the reparations, then hey, cool, it is what it is. But I'm not settling for no reparation just from the man. I want all mine. I don't want my 40 acres. I want just my 40 acres and a mule. I want my cities. I want my position of authority and power. I want everything that God promised to me. Because if I don't hold God as His promises, then what's the reason of even doing anything? What's the reason of even doing anything? So God just didn't promise me a check from the government, from the white man. He said because you had double shame, I'm going to give you double honor. And even it goes to double, it goes to triple, based on your labor of love that you do here in this flesh while you are here. So I want my double honor. I don't want just my reparations, you know what I'm saying, the man give it to me. Because I feel like that's settling. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I got my reparation check. Y'all got your reparation check? Yeah, I got my what you gonna do with yours, man? And are we good now? Nah, we ain't good. We ain't good. I want it all. I want everything that God promised me. God didn't just promise me reparations from the white man, and I'm still in the same situation. The Lord said that He was going to make me and everybody else that's in righteousness, He was going to make us the head and not the tail. You giving me a reparation check ain't making me the head. That's giving me some money, but you still ruling over me. You still making decisions that's going to eventually take that money or whatever, or you going to do something. We know how they get down. No, you need to be removed from power, and then the righteous need to be put in power. That's what God promised, and that's what I'm holding to Him. I'm holding Him at His word. So I'm waiting for my heavenly retribution. I'm waiting for my heavenly reparations. I ain't sitting around waiting for no reparations from the man. I'm not settling for no reparations from the man. Y'all can settle for it, but I'm not settling for that. If God said that I'm going to rule with Him as a king, and I'm going to sit on my throne in my kingdom and be a ruler over whatever he decides to make me ruler over, then I'm holding him at his promise. He didn't say, hey, you still gonna be the tail, and I'm gonna have these people cut you a check and then you good to go. That ain't what he said. He said that they're gonna be removed from power, their wealth, everything they got, the riches of the Gentiles is gonna be stripped from them. It's gonna be given to us. I'm not selling for nothing else because that's what God promised, and I'm holding God at his word. So we continue forward, and it says, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thy enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. We can't even think about what he's saying right here. He's saying that your animals are going to be taken from you, and you're going to be so powerless, you won't even be able to save your own animals. So if you can't even save your own animals because you're going to be so powerless, then how are you going to save your own people? You can't. The only way you can save your people is through the gospel. That's why he said, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Meaning that, hey, on Judgment Day, you're going to stand there by yourself. I can speak this stuff that I'm speaking all day. But if you don't take heed to what I'm saying and you don't apply it, that ain't my fault. The blood is off my hands. That's between you and God. Yeah, I may very well be the one that's given the authority to judge you on Judgment Day. But still, that authority is given by God. So I'm going to preach what he has called me to preach, because I ain't trying to have no blood on my hands. I ain't trying to have no blood on my hands. So we go on. He says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand. You're not going to be able to even save your own children that came forth from you. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Somebody taking your child off and you can't do nothing about it? That's what happens when you get involved with the government and stuff like that, and then you make your children children of the state. You make them wards of the state because you legally give your power over to the state or whatnot. Some of you don't even know that, and you wonder why these people coming in and they snatching these children up out of these homes or whatever, because you gave the government more authority over your children than you have when you send them off to do these things or whatever. And some of you don't even know that, and that is legal and that's lawful. And you wonder why DFAC is coming in and doing all these different things, because you gave them authority to, and you don't even realize that you gave them authority. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Look at the stuff that we are seeing, and some of our people, not even some, but a lot of our people are going crazy. Depression is running rampant in our communities. Drugs and all these things are running rampant. The stuff that we are doing, not even drugs, our mentality, our thinking, our actions, the way that we live our lives, the way that we eat, everything is madness. The diabetes that we have amongst our own people is madness. And it could be solved so simply. So simply. Not even something dealing with salvation, but just basic wisdom. Stop eating all that bull jive and eat some real food. And you will see a change in your physical, in your thinking, just based off of that wisdom alone. But no, we want to keep on eating garbage. We want to keep on piling the sugar on. Everything got sugar in it, and everything got more sugar than it's supposed to have. And people say, oh, you shouldn't be eating sugar. That's bull jive. How are you going to sit there and say you ain't supposed to be eating sugar when your DNA is sugar-based? Your DNA is sugar-based. The problem isn't sugar. The problem isn't money. The problem is the love of money. The problem is the love of sugar. When you get addicted to it because you're not eating the proper type of sugar. Oh, because you don't want to spend the money on the sugar, the real sugar, because this is too expensive. But you'll go buy the cheap sugar, they're going to get you addicted worse than crack cocaine. Come on now, don't act like you don't know. When you go get that candy bar, you trying to figure out why you keep on going back for more, because you're addicted to the sugar. Your flesh is addicted to the sugar. Y'all Negroes ain't got no self-control. You keep on going back. Am I guilty of it? Absolutely. I ain't going to sit here and say that I ain't guilty of it. Even now, I eat something like, man, it's good. I know it's a sugar. I know it's a sugar. But I ain't finna keep on eating it. I may eat it, eat a Snicker bar or something like that. Or, get me a drink that got a whole bunch of sugar in it. A tea or something that got more sugar than it's supposed to have, instead of going home and making my own drink. But am I drinking it every day? Absolutely not. Because, I get convicted. Like, hey, that still got that sugar in it. And you know how God does it with me? He'll bring it up in my remembrance. I drink the pure leaf tea. You get it from Walmart, you get it from the grocery store, right? I know it got a lot of sugar in it, but I didn't know it had that much sugar in it. And so there was a post that somebody posted, and it was showing all the sugar that was in the drinks. I don't drink soda. I don't drink none of that stuff or whatever. But at the end of this picture, it had the same drink that I was drinking. And that was that pure leaf tea. And it was showing how much sugar was in it. And it was pretty much half the bottle of it was sugar. And you know what happened? I was convicted by it. I hadn't drunk the drink in maybe a week or whatever, over a week or something like that. But I was still convicted by it. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that. Even though I knew before, I was still convicted by it. So do I go out and not drink these drinks that, you shouldn't really be drinking? No, I do not drink it on a regular basis. But sometimes I do. And if you're sitting there saying that you don't, you're a liar. You're a liar. Let me come to your house right now before you could take everything out your kitchen, and let me go through there and let me start reading those ingredients. And let me expose you for the lie you are. So, let's just be real about it. I don't do it on a regular basis because I know better. That's like saying that, you got me, do I eat Domino's pizza? Yeah, I eat Domino's pizza. Domino's pizza is good for what it is. But do I eat Domino's pizza every week? No. If I'm gonna get pizza, if I'm gonna eat pizza on a consistent basis, I'm going to either make the pizza myself, or I'm going to go to a place that has quality ingredients. And there's a place where we stay at that they use quality ingredients. But even then, I'm not going to eat pizza every single day. Give me some greens. Give me some fruits. Give me some vegetables. I need that substance. I need them vitamins and minerals so I can do what God has called me to do. But mostly you're going to be like, man, you pay how much for a pizza? $20 for a pizza? And then you got to cook it yourself? Because the place I get my pizzas from, some of you may have heard about it, it's called Papa Murphy's. I had never heard about Papa Murphy's. And I went in there, I said, I'm going to go try them out. So I'm looking them up, I'm like, dang, man, this is genius. And they use really, really, really fresh ingredients. Their cheese is shredded off the block. I know some of you can't fool that cheese. I ain't got no problem with cheese. Me and cheese, we best friends. But, and you know what I'm saying, am I just eating cheese on top of cheese? No, I eat everything in moderation. Just like you don't put too much salt in your food, because you put too much salt in your food, then, you can't eat it or whatever. So, I get my pizza from there, but you going to pay for it. But some of you like, man, I ain't paying all that money for that. You crazy. I ain't finna pay that money. And then you wonder why you continue to be sick. Because you refuse to apply wisdom. So we push forward, and it tells us, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, which is interesting because we came from a system of a monarchy government. And here God is saying that he's going to bring us and our king, which we will set over us, voting, democracy, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. The context of the nation, of us not knowing that nation, isn't that we didn't know that land. Because we knew about America. Joseph was traveling to the Americas, and there's historical evidence for that. That's how a lot of your foods that were native to America ended up in Africa, and foods that were native to Africa ended up in America. Way back then, they were like, hey, how do these foods get here with these mummies? These foods don't even grow here native, because they were traveling back and forth to these different places. But the context he's speaking about is we weren't going to know their ways. The ways of this nation is foreign to us. We don't get down how they get down. This is not how we get down. Because we were born here, then we took on these ways. But then eventually, obviously, we were awakened by the Spirit, and we realized, like, hey, this isn't the way that we're supposed to be living. And so then everything after that starts to change, and you understand and you learn how to maneuver and operate in this oppressive system that we are living in. So that's more so the context that he's talking about. Not saying that there weren't places that we didn't know about that we were sent into, because the scriptures tell us that we were going to be sent into all four corners of the world, to the most remote of remote places. But it's more so speaking about that, where we know that we were sent to the Caribbean islands, the islands in South America and all these different places, North America, whatnot, and we were not familiar with the customs and the ways in worshiping their gods, because we didn't get down like that. But we end up learning it and taking it on, because you read it, it says, and there thou shalt serve other gods. So he's going to bring us and our king unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. He said he's going to bring us to a nation. A nation isn't just a place. A nation is a place that has people. People have customs. People have traditions. People have their own religions. A nation that, in regards to how you define it as a nation, like the nation of America, it's just a nation of America if there's no people there. But what makes up a nation is the people being there. Other than that, it's just a piece of land that's named America or whatever. But the people make up a nation. So that's giving you even more evidence. And it goes on and says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. And we see this no matter where we go. No matter where we go, people got something to say about us. We are a proverb. We are a byword. We're nigga this, nigga that. Things worse than nigga. No matter where we go. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coast, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast its fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. And the daughters and everything, still in captivity. They in captivity in the prison systems. They in captivity to the American mindset. They in captivity to chasing the American dollar. Y'all always talk about the white man and the white man this, but you chasing a piece of paper with the image of the white man on it. How stupid are you? How hypocritical are you? You sitting there talking about that you can't stand the white man, but you go into the white man job and you to chase a piece of paper that got the white man face on it. You a bunch of hypocrites. You sound you stupid. You stupid. You chasing a piece of paper with a white man face on it, and claiming you don't rock with white folks, And matter of fact, them white people that you chasing, they dead. You chasing dead presidents. You chasing ghosts. Then you got the nerve to say something about us. Go sit your hypocritical butt down somewhere. So, you got the prison industrial complex, convict leasing, slavery in general. People have sold their sons and daughters to the captivity of the school system. These different things. Sending them off to be miseducated and then not even teaching them the right things. I know every situation is different, but overall, most people that send their children off, they send their children off to these public school systems because either they are ignorant or because they don't want to be bothered with them because they want to do what they need to do. They need to make this money. They need to chase these Benjamin. They need to chase these dead presidents. They need to chase the image of the white man. They ain't got the nerve to say something against white Jesus. But you chasing, other forms of white Jesus. Your Messiah is the dollar. Stop it. Stop it. So it continues on. It says, all thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. And this wasn't just talking about physical locusts, but a people can be locusts. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. The very people we bring up is what the Asians. The Asians come over here, they get these loans and get this and get that, and they get above us. And all of them are in cahoots together because that's what the book of Psalms tells us, Psalms 83. They all in cahoots because they know who we are as a people. We cannot let these people rise up because of who they represent. They represent Christ, and Christ represents the destruction of them. Christ represents the destruction of them. When Christ is risen up, we are also risen up with him. When Christ is risen up, who is risen up first? Israel. So when Christ is risen up, that means that Israel is risen up. That means the Gentiles in Christ are risen up. That means that leads to the destruction of the nations that are in power right now. So they ain't got no choice but to come together in cahoots, but to be confederate against us, to try to continue to keep us oppressed, depressed, suppressed in every type of ED there is on the earth. So we see this where it seems like no matter what we do, we can never get ahead because there's always laws being made. There's always something else coming out and people taking advantage of it or whatever because they got the inside intel that being fed to them so they can jump on the bandwagon and they can get that bread, they can get that money before everybody else get in. You know what I'm saying? So if it does fall or whatever, then they already made their money. So now they taking their money and then they taking that money they didn't already made because they had the inside scoop. They already invested in something else. And then, we coming in, we think we doing something, but we ain't really nothing but getting nothing but the scraps. We ain't getting nothing but the scraps. So we think we doing something, we ain't doing nothing. Y'all Negro think y'all doing something. You ain't doing nothing. You want to do something, sit on your throne that Christ is going to give you. Sit as a king or a queen that Christ is going to anoint you as. That's when you're doing something. When you're born again and you're preaching the gospel, that's when you're doing something. We ain't doing nothing for real. I got a business I run. It's cool, but I ain't doing nothing for real, for real. Even if I was making $1 million in my business, I ain't doing nothing for real. But what I'm doing in Christ, that's doing something for real. When I rule and reign with Christ and rule and reign with my brothers and sisters in righteousness, then we're going to be doing something. But we ain't doing nothing right now. We tell that to ourselves to make ourselves feel better. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it real. Because we know that if we don't tell ourselves that, then we feel like that we're worthless. And we'll give up. We'll give up because you have no more hope. And nobody wants to feel like they're worthless. Nobody wants to feel like they're worthless. Even if they are worthless, they don't want to be told that they're worthless. Everybody wants to feel like they have some type of value to contribute to something. Even look at basketball. You got people on the basketball NBA teams. Let's take the Lakers since they just won the championship, last year. Let's take Jared Dudley. Some of you may know him. Some of you may not. Or J.R. Smith. Some of you may know him. Some of you may not. But the point of the story is this: they didn't do too much to help win the championship, but they was a part of the team. The Lakers saw value in them to pick them up and make them part of the team. So you can't get mad at them because they needed to get in the game. If somebody got injured, then they would get in the game. They would do what they were called to do. It's just that how things were set up that it didn't call for them to be in the game. Now, if you're keeping up with basketball now, you know what has been going on with the Lakers. AD has been injured. And a lot of these same people, these players that were on the team last year that didn't really do nothing, like Jared Dudley, they're getting in the game now because their number is being called because of injuries. You see what I'm saying? So even though you may not see them as having value, it doesn't matter what you think. The Lakers see them as having value because they're still on the team. The Lakers, Jeannie Buss is cutting their check. You're not cutting their check. So your opinion don't matter. For real. Jared Dudley ain't studying what you talking about. He got that ring. He made it to the NBA. How many of you Negroes made it to the NBA? Most of y'all Negroes ain't doing nothing with your life. Let alone even talking about making it to the NBA. You ain't doing nothing in general, but you think you got the right to say something to somebody else when you ain't even doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you're proving yourself to be worthless. But then when somebody tells you and calls you out for being worthless, then you got a problem with it. Well, you're showing yourself as worthless. You shall know a tree by its fruit. I got value. How do I know? Because God keeps on giving me stuff. He's bringing a return. So let's give him more and see what he's going to do with this. He's brought a return on that. So let's give him more and he's going to see if he can bring a return on that. I got it set up where I'm bringing a return on the investment that Christ has given me even when I'm sleeping. Some of you don't even know about none that stuff right there. How you doing that, brother? Hey, it is what it is. Maybe one day I'll tell you, maybe one day I won't. Maybe I already told you, but you didn't even take heed to what I was really saying. So God sees value in me, so he keeps on giving me more stuff, which makes me more valuable to the kingdom of God. Let's keep on pushing forward. So again, we see in verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. So if you think about it, when he's talking about, if you really, I know this can apply in many ways. But if you really think about what he's saying right here, when he's talking about us being the head and not being the tail, he's speaking specifically about finances. He's speaking specifically about money. How do we know? Because of what he says in the beginning of it. He shall lend to thee money. We always borrowing some money. And even in America, we can't even really borrow the money like that because they have these different laws and they have these different different things to make sure that most of us don't get access to that money to be able to properly finance these different business ideas, to finance real estate and stuff like that. So we literally have to get it out the mud. We literally have to get it out the mud. We literally have to crawl our way. Unless, the Lord says, hey, here you go, boom, boom, boom. But even then, a lot of times God will still make you get it out the mud or make you go through some things. So when you get to a certain point, then you will remember where you came from. You will remember the struggle that you went through to get to the point that you are now at. So it's just interesting that the specific context of that scripture, he's speaking about money. We ain't really lending no money to somebody. We lend some money to our family members, you know. We lend some money to our friends and stuff like that. But we ain't, you know what I'm saying? We looking to get that back. We looking like before they even ask, they like, shoot, when you gonna get it back to me? Hey, I need that like ASAP. I need it back. I need it back before I even give it to you. You know what I'm saying? They come to you to get it on a Monday, and you like, when you gonna get it back to me? You gonna get it back to me Monday? Like, bruh, I'm just not giving it. You just not giving it to me. Yeah, but you know, I need that back. Cause you know, that's how we are as a people. We want to help people. Be like, look, bruh, hey, I need that back. My brother, you know, borrowed some money from me. I know the Bible says, you know, then if you're gonna lend, not thinking that you're gonna get it back. You know, I know it's a possibility, but I ain't stupid either. If my brother says that, hey, I need to borrow XYZ, I'm gonna give it back to you, then I'm gonna hold him at his word. So when that day comes around and he ain't gave me my money, I have the right, according to his word, the promise that he made to me, to ask him, hey, what's up with that? And I just had a situation like that recently where he borrowed some money from me. Right? And then the next day he asked to borrow the same amount of money. I'm like, really? Really, bro? Really? You just borrowed XYZ from me, and now you're asking for the same money you just borrowed from me? Like, I'm supposed to be borrowing from you. You make way more money than I do. So he's like, man, I got you, bro. I got you, bro. I got you. You know what I'm saying? You know, I had to take care of some blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay. So Friday come around, I'm like, no, matter of fact, let me make sure I tell the story right. It was Saturday. I forgot. I didn't forgot. I'm thinking that is, you know, Friday or whatever. I'm giving a little bit of time and everything. I look at my phone, I'm like, dang, today's Saturday. I said, dang. Today's Saturday? I said, I mean, my brother got paid Friday. He didn't hit me up. So I hit him out like, hey. I said, yo, I need that. Hey, I need that, bro. I said, I got to pay these bills. You know what I'm saying? So he said, hey, I got you, bro. I got you. You know what I'm saying? Just wait till I get my full check on Wednesday. So Wednesday came around, and then, you know what I'm saying, he paid me back the money or whatever. But, you know, we ain't in a position where it's like we can be lending out money and we ain't really worried about it. Because a lot of times when we are lending out money, we still need that money, but we still have a heart to help people. And so we still are made very low. We are still in a position of the tail, even though we know that we are the head in Christ, because Christ is our head. We're not physically there yet. We still have to borrow from people. We're not really lending to people. People ain't come to us and saying, hey, can I get a loan for $100,000? And we like, yeah, you can get it because we ain't too much worried about it because we got 10 billion in the bank. We ain't living like that. We ain't the ones that's, you know what I'm saying, doing the loans to people and stuff like that and charging interest on them and then making money off that interest, and then, you know, that money is insured, so we ain't really taking no losses and stuff like that. We ain't doing none of that stuff. We ain't living check to check. We living a half a check to half a check. Because as soon as we get our check, half of that check is almost is gone, if not the whole check. So then they got the nerve to say that these curses apply to the people over in the land of Israel. That's bull job. That's bull job, and it's blasphemy against the word of God. Then he tells her, he says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and the statutes which he commanded thee. What he tells us to do today? This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. What did Christ tell us? Repent and believe the gospel. Moses even prophesied about Christ. He said that a prophet from among us, of our brethren, of our flesh, God was going to raise up. And when he came, we were supposed to listen to him and hear him and take heed to what he said. But yet still today, people reject what Christ said. Christ even addressed the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes, and told them that they were in error. I know you do this, I know you do that, but you have omitted the weightier matters of the law. Master, what is the greatest commandment in the law? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So let's make sure we get it right. Because when you truly love God and you truly love people, you're not going to be eating any type of way. You're going to be educating people. Hey, you shouldn't be eating that. You shouldn't continue eating this. Let me tell you why. You're not going to be robbing and stealing and killing because you don't want nobody robbing, stealing, and killing from you. You love God. You're not going to rob and steal and try to kill God because you know that you're made in his image. And he has an abundance that he can give to you. So when he gives you abundantly, then you can give abundantly. I ain't got no abundance of money to give. But there's an abundance of something I do have that I can give. And that's the love of God, the riches of God. And that's what I do give. I give what I do have. And if I ever make it where I do have an abundance of money, I'm going to give an abundance of money, an abundance of riches. But I'm not going to take myself down and give everything I got in there. You know what I'm saying? I'll be broke. And then Negroes don't want to help nobody out. That's just foolish. Just like me giving up the riches that I have in Christ. I'm not going to give that up. I will give you what I got, but I'm not going to give you everything. You get your own. I'm going to teach you how to be fishers of men. So you can get it too. We can get it together. I'm not gonna when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. No. If life gives you lemons, I'm not gonna teach you how to make lemonade. I'm gonna teach you how to grow lemon trees. So you can take over the lemon industry and you can turn around and you can sell those lemons to somebody else so they can make lemonade. And then maybe you can set up a manufacturing company and then they run a lemonade brand through your company and you the one supplying the lemonade. You supplying the sugar because you getting the sugar wholesale and you selling it to them. That's what I'm here for. We growing lemon trees. We ain't just making lemonade. Our mindset, we sitting on 1,000 acres. We got our pilots there, and we got somebody out there going out there picking the lemons for us, squeezing the lemons and making the lemonade for us. Or we go out there ourselves and get the lemons off our own lemon trees. This is what we doing. This is our mindset. We ain't there yet physically, but one day we will be. But we there spiritually. So that's the way I teach. We ain't just making lemonade. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. No, when life gives you lemons, you break that lemon down, you make lemonade, and you take those seeds, you draw those seeds out, and you put those seeds in the ground, and you grow lemon trees to bring forth more lemons. And then you flip those lemons. What y'all talking about? Y'all got this petty mindset. Got this petty mindset. You talk about that you royalty, that you a peculiar people. If you royalty and you're peculiar people, then act like it and walk like it. So, oh Lord, we continue on again. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God. So again, we are in this situation because we stiff-necked. That's why you have the time of Jacob's trouble coming, because of our stiff-neckedness. To keep his commandments and the statutes which he commanded thee. We address that. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So he's saying that these curses are a sign. If you see a stop sign, it tells you something. It tells you to stop. If you're at a light and the light turns yellow, it means to slow your butt down because it's finna turn red. If it turns green, that tells you to go. So these curses are a sign. They tell you something. They are a wonder. What in the world is going on with these people right here? Why they be acting like that? Why they got all this stuff happening to them? Because of these curses. Not only upon our ancestors, but upon thy seed, which is us. Because these curses end up being on us. We didn't know no better. We didn't know no better, but now we know. Now we know. Now we know what's going on. Now we see that these curses apply to us. Now we see why we walking around here so stupid. Now we see why we ain't got nothing. Because of the curses. But yet the people in the land over here, in the land of Israel, they prospering. These curses ain't upon them for a sign and a wonder. These people ain't saved for the curses to be lifted up. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. So when he was blessing us abundantly, we didn't serve him the way that we were supposed to serve him. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. It talks about the different things that he was gonna do. You know, it goes in talking about our children and stuff like that. It just goes into more detail. Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even to the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy father have known, even wood and stone. That's why I'm telling you about the earlier scripture. That's what he was really talking about. We serving the other God because when we was in our land and we had an abundance of things, we were serving the other gods. So God said, that's what you want, then go have at it. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. But y'all saying this applies to the people over there in the land of Israel. The hell it do? Because the hell it don't. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, bring thee into bondage again, the road of no return. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, the way I told you it's going to happen, the way it's going to happen. Thou shalt see it no more again. You ain't going to the promised land. Unless you can go there, but it ain't going to be on God's terms. That's a difference. You can go into the promised land, but it ain't going to be on God's terms. You can go over there and establish your own thing in Israel and watch what happens. The same thing that happened to Black Wall Street. You know why Black Wall Street was destroyed? Because of our wickedness. Because we tried to establish something while we were still in disobedience in the land of our captivity. So God said, you want to do that? I'm going to drop these bombs on you. I told you that your enemy was going to rule over you. You don't get to do that and then think that you still get to reject me and you're going to prosper. No, you're going to suffer your consequences. So that's why the bombing of Black Wall Street happened, because of our disobedience. We went trying to go establish what we wanted to establish, but we still did not come to repentance. And God said, okay, I'm going to allow you to build this up. And guess what? I'm finna have these folk come in and drop these bombs on you. And what we turn around and do, oh, the white man did this, the white man did that. But we don't ask, why did they do it? Oh, because they hate us. Well, maybe they do hate us. Why did they hate us? Why did they hate us so much? Huh? Why did they hate us so much? Because of who we're supposed to represent. Because they know who we are as a people. God sent those people against us. He just told us that in the book of Deuteronomy. We just read it. He sent the people to drop those bombs on us, you know what I'm saying, on Black Wall Street. I'm going to let you build it up, and then I'm going to come drop these bombs on you. So if we're going to address anybody first and foremost, we need to address ourselves and why we are in the mess that we are in. Because of our disobedience. And every time we try to build something up as a people, as a people as a whole, it ends up never taking off or ends up getting destroyed. Rather from the inside or from the outside, because of our disobedience. So let's I want to go to my next point. I didn't, plan on expounding on that so much. But you speak as the Spirit leads you. You speak as the Spirit leads you. So we jump over here and it tells us how slavery became America's first big business. Historian and author Edward E. Baptist explains how slavery helped the U.S. go from a colonial economy. Colonial meaning just the 12 colonies. Interesting, the 12, right? The mockery, because it's supposed to be the 12 tribes that spread and grew into this great superpower, but it ended up being what? These 12 colonies. Oh Lord, you can't make this stuff up. No reason to. So it went from a colonial economy to the second biggest industrial power in the world. We know that ultimately it ended up being the first biggest and becoming a superpower. But how did it do that? Through slavery. That's what it said in the book of Romans, that the riches of the world came through the fall of us. Of the many myths told about American slavery, one of the biggest is that it was an archaic practice that only enriched a small number of people. Let me enlarge this a little bit. When you get older, you need stuff, need them big words, even with glasses. The argument has often been used to diminish the scale of slavery, reducing it to a crime committed by a few southern planters. One that, lost my place looking at the screen. One that did not touch the rest of the United States. Slavery, the argument goes, was an inefficient system, and the labor of the enslaved was considered less productive than that of a free worker being paid a wage. The use of enslaved labor has been presented as pre-modern, a practice that had no ties to the capitalism that allowed America to become and remain a leading global economy. But we know that's not true. But as with so many stories about slavery, this is untrue. Slavery, particularly the cotton slavery, which they're still making money off of, because you know how expensive underwear are? Man, you go get a pair of boxers from Walmart, man, you like, man, that's crazy. $14 for some good underwear. You don't want to get them cheap underwear. You know what I'm saying? Because that just ain't comfortable. Some of y'all women know you want to get you don't want to get no garbage bra. You put the bra in the wash machine, the bra then got toe up. For a good bra, you gonna pay some good money. For some good underwear, you gonna pay some good money. They still making money off of us. I don't want to pay no $14 for a pack of underwear. I should be the one owning the Fruit of the Loom. It shouldn't be Fruit of the Loom. It should be King of the Loom or whatever. But because of our disobedience, we got to pay $14 for a pack of underwear. We got to pay XYZ for a shirt. We got to pay all this money for some bra, for some panties. Because of our disobedience, these people still making money off of us. They run the cotton industry. They run the clothing industry. We don't run that. But they got rich off of the back of our ancestors, off of our blood. Slavery, particularly the cotton slavery that existed from the end of the 18th century to the beginning of the Civil War, was a thoroughly modern business. One that was continuously changing to maximize profits. It's about making that money. And then what they did was they took that money and they invested it in other places because they could risk it. If I know I got free money coming in, then you guarantee I'm gonna take $1 million and I'm gonna, say, hey, if I lose this money, it's good because I know I can make it back. I got slaves. I ain't paying them nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you can take greater risks because it's going to bring a greater return. So now I listen to a lot of business people talking everything. They talk about 200,000 and this. Now I'm like, man, y'all speaking from that Eurocentric mindset because the average black person ain't got no $200,000 to invest. They barely got enough money to do anything. Talking about some, you just get this and get that, and you know what I'm saying? Then you can invest it. The average black person ain't got that to be talking about investing, especially talking about some, taking a risk. We take a risk every day we wake up and we get out here in these streets because we, something may happen to us. So you talk about taking a risk in business. The average black person don't have that type of money to be taking that type of risk. The average black person don't even have access to the type of money. The average black person don't even know what $100,000 look like in front of their face. I done seen $100,000. I done seen stacks on stacks on stacks, racks on racks on racks. I done seen it. Rather it was, money that I was accumulating, or it was some money some other people had. You know what I'm saying? So, man, it's just crazy, man. Just crazy. They talking about taking risk and everything. Yeah, you take a risk or whatnot. But if you ain't got too much to risk, then you can be like, man, I ain't finna risk that. I ain't got too much to be putting toward it anyway. Excuse me. To grow the cotton that would clothe the world and fuel global industrialization, thousands of young enslaved men and women, the children of stolen ancestors, legally treated as property. We know that was according to laws and is still in place today. People think that the 3/5 law done away with. No, it's not. Were transported from Maryland and Virginia hundreds of miles south and forcibly retrained to become America's most efficient laborers. As they were pushed into the expanding territories of Mississippi and Louisiana, sold and bid on at auctions and resettled onto forced labor camps, they were given a task to plant and pick thousands of pounds of cotton. Did we not just read that when it came to the curses in Deuteronomy? The bodies of the enslaved served as America's largest financial assets. It was the slaves that was the most valuable, because the slaves gave them the free labor to do the work that allowed them to take the cotton and to make the clothing, to make these different uniforms during all these different wars and everything. The Civil War, World War I, World War II, all these different wars and everything. They made money off of all that stuff. Even when I don't know how it is today, but I know when I went to the military, my wife went to the military, they made you pay for that stuff. I thought you get those uniforms for free. Then you get that piece of paper and you find out that you got to pay all that stuff back. They take it out your check. Man, get out of here. Get out of here with that garbage. Some of you don't even know that. When you go to the military, like I said, I don't know how it is now, but I know when I signed up, when my wife went, when her daddy went, because I come from a line of soldiers or whatever. That's kind of like part of why I am the way that I am. My wife comes from a line of soldiers. She was in the military. Her daddy was in the military. Her brother was in the military. I was in the military. My daddy was in the military. My uncles was in the military, whatever. So don't come to me about that American stuff and everything. I understand it more than a lot of y'all. That claim to be quote unquote patriots. You had to pay for that stuff. I didn't know what I know now, but I looked at a piece of paper. I'm like, I got to pay for this? Y'all taking it out my check? I ain't nothing but a coming in as an E1, E2 or whatever. And you tell me I gotta pay for my BDUs. I gotta pay for my polypros. I gotta pay for these wool socks. I gotta pay for this uniform. I gotta pay for these Class A's. I gotta pay for this stuff. Y'all taking it out my check? Come on, man. So they make money off of it. They still making money off of it today. So It says, and they were forced to maintain America's most exported commodity. In 60 years from 1801 to 1862, the amount of cotton picked daily by a enslaved person increased 400%. But how much money were we getting out that cotton? I mean, they had sharecroppers and stuff like that. Man, you better go research the truth about sharecroppers. Yeah, they were making a little bit of money, but they weren't making no money for real. The profits from cotton propelled the U.S. into a position as one of the leading economies in the world and made the South its most prosperous region. And so what ended up happening was they had an agreement with the North and the South. They had an agreement. They was fighting amongst each other, but they ended up having an agreement. They're thinking that, oh, the North is fighting for the slave. Bull jive. The ownership of enslaved people increased wealth for Southern planters so much that by the dawn of the Civil War, the Mississippi River Valley had more millionaires per capita than any other region. This is where you get the term, you get that old money. You get that old slave money. When we say old money, we talking about slave money. When we say old, you got that old money, you got that long money, because that's where that money came from. So at the dawn of the Civil War, you had all these millionaires. And then they took that money and then they either passed it on to their ancestors or they invested it somewhere else to bring in more money. And how did they get rich? Off the backs of the slaves, literally, because they wasn't paying us nothing. They wasn't paying our ancestors nothing. And that's still going on today, because from that came forth your Fruit of the Looms, your Under Armour, and all these your Nikes and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they have to be able to make these products with cotton, with rubber, with all these different industries that got their wealth from the foundation, which is what we're reading right now. And now Nike and Under Armour and all these different companies, they are multi-billion-dollar companies. So don't give me that bull jive about, you know what I'm saying, it don't matter. When these folks are still making money, you know, off of this stuff. Because, you know, it's like a tree. In recent years, a growing field of scholarship has outlined how America, through the country's geographic growth after the American Revolution and enslavers' desired for increased cotton production, created a complex system. Created a complex system aimed at monetizing and maximizing the labor of the enslaved. In the cotton fields of the Deep South, this system rested on the continuous threat of violence and meticulous use of record keeping. The labor of each person was tracked daily, and those who did not meet their assigned picking goals were beaten. The best workers were beaten as well, the whip and other assaults coercing them into doing even more work in even less time. The same thing that goes on today. Hey, we need you to to produce more work in these different plants and stuff like that, where it's easy to get a job. As overseers and plantation owners managed a forced labor system aimed at maximizing efficiency, they interacted with a network of bankers and accountants and took out lines of credit and mortgages, all to manage America's empire of cotton, an entire industry. America's first big business revolved around slavery. Now that's important. That is so important right there. How they were able to get these lines of credit and mortgages to grow their businesses and buy more property. Because the same thing is going on today, and that ties in directly with Wall Street. And we're going to look at that in a little bit. The slavery economy of the U.S. South is deeply tied financially to the North, to Britain, to the point that we can say that people who were buying financial products in these other places were in effect owning slaves and were extracting money from the labor of enslaved people. Now we know that at the time Britain was black, so even our own people were getting in on the action. Even our own people were getting in on the action. And we're gonna bring up a point that we have brought up a lot in a second. So let's go on to our next point. So we could jump over here, and it says slavery in the White House. Construction on the president's house began in 1792 in Washington, D.C., a new capital situated in sparsely settled region far from a major population center. Construction on the president's house began in 1792. The decision to place the capital on land ceded by two states that permitted slavery, Virginia and Maryland, ultimately influenced the acquisition of laborers to construct its public buildings. The commissioners for the District of Columbia, charged by Congress to build the new city under the direction of President George Washington, who had slaves, initially planned to import workers from Europe to meet their labor needs. Now, that's important because at the time, Europe was predominantly black. We're going to look at that. Some of you already know where I'm going. But at the time, Europe was predominantly black. At the time, Europe was still predominantly black. So they wanted to import workers here, which, it makes sense. And it makes sense that a lot of the workers were like, "No, we ain't going over to work and everything because y'all, fought a war against us." Because your modern day American nations and stuff like that are founded off of the founding fathers, your founding fathers, if they are your founding fathers, they rebelled against black monarchy that was in that position of power and authority. Some of you, that may be new to you, but some of you already know where I'm going with that. We're going to look at what Benjamin Franklin said during his time period, because this was way back in 1792, right? So it goes on and says, however, response to recruitment was dismal, and soon they turned to African Americans. That is a term they apply. Hey, we're going to turn to the people that we already got over here. We can't get them, so we're going to use them or whatever. Enslaved and free, but primarily enslaved. So you had enslaved African Americans, and you had free African Americans that were working on this. Not saying that there were not other people, but predominantly this is who built the White House. And this is exactly what the scriptures said would happen. To provide the bulk of the labor that built the White House, the United States Capitol, and other early government buildings. Not only the White House, but other buildings. Most of these enslaved laborers were hired out from slave owners from Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. on a contract basis. The owners collected a wage from the commissioners while providing clothing and some medical care to the enslaved laborers. The commissioners typically provided workers with housing, 2 meals per day, and basic medical care. It didn't say nothing about they gave them no money. The wages went to the people, that was involved in it, but not the actual enslaved people. A major concern in the construction of the new public buildings in the undeveloped federal city was the acquisition of building materials such as stone, lumber, bricks, hardware, and nails. Enslaved African American quarrymen, sawyers, brickmakers, and carpenters fashioned raw materials into the products used to erect the White House. Enslaved people were trained on the spot at the government's quarry at Aquia in Stafford County, Virginia, 40 miles south of Washington. There they quarried and cut the rough stone that was later dressed and laid by Scottish stonemasons to erect the walls of the president's house. Interesting, you even have the Scottish there. And I'm not going to get into that, but just think about that in regards to who the Scottish really were. Because what a lot of people don't know is that the White House is modeled after something that these Scottish stonemasons they had in Scotland. So we can prove that Scotland was predominantly black during this time period, which we can. then what does that tell you? Over 200 known enslaved individuals labored to build the White House and the Capitol building, and over 100 other known enslaved people worked in presidential households. Wage rolls for May 1795 list 5 enslaved people: Tom, Peter, Ben, Harry, and Daniel, 4 of whom were owned by White House architect James Hoban. Daniel was owned by Hoban's assistant Pierce Purcell. So they had 5 slaves on the wage roll. You may be wondering, well, where the rest of the slaves at? Well, it's the same thing today. If you can do something under the table and keep the money for yourself and not to pay taxes, then you're gonna do it. Like, come on, man. You can't tell me you lacking wisdom. The majority of the early presidents were slave owners, and most brought their enslaved workers to the White House as a means to save money on domestic staff. So like, well, shoot, they already doing the same thing for us at our house on our plantation. So we'll just use them to do the same thing in the White House and serve us under this government. Because they were really setting the same system up that Great Britain had. They were pretty much setting the same system up, but under democracy. And they really weren't trying to establish a democracy from not a democracy in the way that we know it, that we have it today. But just imagine, you got black people ruling over you, and then you rebel from them, the War of Independence and stuff like that, and you come over and you set up your own government, and then you're like, well, shoot, who's gonna get to do the labor? Well, we're gonna get the very people that had us under them. We're gonna get they people to do the work for us, because it's cheap labor, and it was better than cheap. It was free. So it was primarily blacks who built the White House and a lot of your Capitol buildings. We know that it was blacks overall that built America. And I'm not saying that there were not other people, because we know that people eventually immigrated over here from other nations that are what we call white. But the crazy thing is, if you go research history, you find out that the Americans, the white Americans of America that helped establish America, they did not see initially the whites that came over here later as white people as they saw themselves. And some of you don't even know that. And even today, they still don't really see them as their own people. They use them. They use their own people. They're like, they may not be people for real. That's y'all people. We don't see them. We don't see them as us. So there's something to think about before you get upset at me, because I'm addressing this stuff, and the very people that you trying to lay hold to, they're using you. Them folk don't care nothing about you. They don't care nothing about you. So y'all already know where we're going now. You see it on the screen. We're going to bring Benjamin Franklin to the stand. Let him testify. Observations concerning the increase of mankind from when? 1751. 1751, right? When was the White House being built? 1792 it said, or something like that. I can't remember. But some of you remember. But we see this was pretty much before that, right? So this is Benjamin Franklin. Some of you know what he says, but some of you don't. But we got to make the connection. We don't. Dang, what happened? Okay. We got to make that connection, right? So Benjamin Franklin, he wanted the slaves over here, but he didn't want the slaves over here in the numbers that they were being brought over, because he was like, hey, we are already a small percentage of people. We are already the minority. If we bring them over here, then that's pretty much going to lead to the destruction of our own race, which is the same thing that's going on today. Why they're trying to really control population, because they fear white annihilation, that the white race will no longer exist as what is known as the white race. And that's not according to Kelson King. That's according to white scholars, white scientists themselves. So if you're going to get mad at somebody, go get mad at your own people. If you're going to get mad at somebody, go get mad at them. If you're a black person, you're mad that I said that. I didn't say that. They said that. Which is why they're doing all this other stuff. Bill Gates trying to block the sun out when we know that we need the sun. But when you go study science and stuff like that, true science, and you understand the biology of the black man, the biology of the white man, like the black man, the black woman, we need more iron than our white brothers and sisters. We need more vitamin D3 than our white brothers and sisters. And in fact, did you know that white people, they produce more vitamin D3 in darkness, when it's dark and not in the sun? Did you know that? Did you know that? So, you don't believe me? Go read some scholarly books that are boring and you would know this stuff. A lot of stuff you're not going to find just reading a Google article. Some of the stuff you can find, but sometimes you got to dig deep for it. You got to dig deep, and you got to come across one thing that's going to lead you to something else. And then you go read this, and you go buy this book. And you find that the book is $40 or $100 or whatever. You're like, man, I ain't finna pay this. Or you go get the Kindle version, you read it. And they got these big words. You gotta pause. You gotta pause your Audible app, because sometimes you listen to it or whatever. Or you gotta stop your reading every few minutes to go look up what a word means. So what do you tell us? What do you tell us? What do you tell us? And since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increase so largely here, why should the Palatine boards be suffered to swarm into our settlements and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Did you catch that? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who would shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion? Huh? So he's saying that these people, hey, we shouldn't be fooling, we shouldn't be mixing and stuff like that. We shouldn't be using them the way that we're using them, in the amount that we're using them, because they aren't going to adopt our language and customs. Obviously, we know what happened. He said they're not going to adopt our language and customs, just like they can not acquire our skin complexion. What color was Benjamin Franklin? He was white. So he's giving you something to compare. He's saying they don't look like us. We cannot adopt their complexion, just like they cannot adopt our complexion. So we should not be trying to adopt their language and customs or whatnot and all these different things, because they're not going to adopt our language and customs, and it's going to cause problems. He wanted slaves, but he did not want slaves and black people over here in the amount that they were brought over. But Benjamin Franklin don't run stuff. God does. Then he says, he's expounding on this point we just read, which leads me to add one remark. He said, he's like saying, okay, let me make sure I say this. Since we're talking about skin color, since we're talking about complexion and different things, let me make sure I address this. That the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. So you may make the argument about, well, what was the known world then? We know the known world at the time included the Americas. We know it included Europe. We know that it included Asia. We know that it included Africa. Did it include some other parts? It may very well have. But we know it included Great Britain, Ireland, Scotland, these different places, right? All Africa is black or tawny, black or brown. Asia, chiefly brown, tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, meaning his people, the white people, wholly so, is what? Black and tawny. And in Europe, who is named after Europa, a Phoenician princess. Europe includes Great Britain that they came out of, Scotland, Ireland, these different places. He's going to tell you the Spaniards, the Italians, the French, the Russians, the Swedes, Switzerland, and are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, black complexion, brown complexion, as are the Germans also. This is during the time period of Benjamin Franklin. So when they were building the White House and they were saying, hey, let's go over to Great Britain and bring these people over here, Benjamin Franklin is telling you that these were black people too. But they were under the rulership of the monarchy at that time. So they were like, well, we ain't going over there like that. So they were like, well, shoot, you don't want to come? Then we're going to use the slaves. As are the Germans, also the Saxons only, except who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. So you have their English. I could wish their number were increased. So he said, I wish the number of white people were increased. And while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by clearing America of woods, scouring the planet, this side of the world of the black people, the people of color, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus because they worship the gods. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, this is where you get your whole white supremacy stuff. But the crazy thing is, a lot of these gods they worship, they were black. They were black. These were black gods, black fallen angels that ruled the earth when Lucifer was ruling, because Lucifer was black. The Antichrist is black, y'all. Whether it's Obama or whoever it is, he's going to be black. And it goes on to say, darken his people. Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? Well, we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies, all blacks and brown people, all people of color. We have an opportunity to exclude them of increasing the lovely white and red. But perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country. He said, I'm partial to my own people. He said, maybe I'm just partial to my own people. He said, maybe I am, a white supremacist and I want the best for my people. But then he said, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. People are partial to their own people. He's telling the truth. But they took it above and beyond. So when they were talking about building the White House and going over there and get people from Great Britain, he just told you they're talking about going and getting other black people. So we jump over here, we make another connection. The hidden links between slavery and Wall Street. Didn't we read something about that earlier? How when they had the cotton trade and they built all this wealth, that they were plugged in with the bankers and stuff like that. And they were borrowing the money from the bankers and everything. Because it was all connected. It was all connected. Because Wall Street is based off of the slave trade also. And now you have all these people making all this money off of Wall Street when their initial money that they later had to invest in the Wall Street to be Wall Street bankers and Wall Street Mongols, and the Wolf of Wall Street, all this stuff was based off of slavery. And now they have these hedge funds and these multi-billion-dollar corporations where they pool their money together, and then they acquire properties or acquire assets. They acquire these multi-million-dollar properties, and they make money off of them. They split it up amongst themselves. And they rinse and repeat. They got that money from Wall Street. They got that money from the cotton trade. They got that money from the sugar trade and everything. That they was able to get this money off of the backs of the slave, the blood of slaves, because they didn't have to pay nobody. They had to pay nobody for real. So, on a hot August day, 25 people are gathered around a small commemorative sign in New York's financial district. Their tour guide explains that this was the site of one of the U.S.'s largest slave markets. Just 2 streets away from the current site of the New York Stock Exchange, men, women, and children were bought and sold. This is not black history, says Damaris Obi, who leads the tour. This is not New York City or American history. This is world history. It is also economic history. Stacy Toussaint, the boss of Inside Out Tours, which runs the NYC Slavery and Underground Railroad Tour, says people are often surprised by how important slavery was to New York City. They don't realize that enslaved people built the wall. Make it smaller. Built the wall after which Wall Street is named after, she says. By some estimates, New York received 40% of U.S. cotton revenue through money its financial firms, shipping businesses, and insurance companies earned. Let me read that again. By some estimates, New York received 40% of U.S. cotton revenue through money its financial firms, shipping businesses, and insurance companies earned. Oh, Lord. But scholars differ on just how direct a line can be drawn between slavery and modern economic practices in the U.S. Right. People in non-slave areas, Britain and the free U.S. states, routinely did business with slave owners in slave commerce, says Gavin Wright, Professor Emeritus of Economic History at Stanford University. But he says the uniqueness of slavery's economic contribution has been exaggerated by some. No, exaggerated to him. Slavery thrived under colonial rule. British and Dutch settlers relied on enslaved people to help establish farms and build the new towns and cities that would eventually become the United States. They're not telling you who the British really were and what British it was that came over and established. They're not telling you the whole story. I should say they're not telling you who they rebelled against. Slavery thrived under colonial rule. I think we just read that. Yeah. Enslaved people were brought to work on the cotton, the sugar, and the tobacco plantations. The crops they grew were sent to Europe or to the northern colonies to be turned into finished products. Those finished goods were used to fund trips to Africa to obtain more slaves who were then trafficked back to America. So am I saying that blacks that were in Britain didn't have their hand in this? I ain't saying that. I'm not saying that. This triangular trading route was profitable for investors. To raise the money to start many future plantation owners to raise the money to start many future plantation. I don't know how they wrote that like that. To start many future plantation owners turned to capital markets in London, selling debt that was used to purchase boats, goods, and eventually people. Same thing we just read earlier, right? So we're making the connection. Later in the 19th century, U.S. banks in southern states would sell securities that helped fund the expansion of slave-run plantations. So you talk about security, your stocks and bonds, it's rooted in slavery. It ain't changed. They're just doing it in different ways that you don't understand. To balance the risk that came with forcibly bringing humans from Africa to America, insurance policies were purchased. This is the root of all this stuff. These policies protected against the risk of a boat sinking and the risk of losing individual slaves once they made it to America. So they didn't care if they lost a slave. They didn't care if a slave ship sunk and everything. This is the root of your modern day insurance policies. And then it just, I don't know how to use that word, but I'm gonna use it, evolved into what it is today. They say, hey, we can make even more money off of this by forcing people to have insurance and these different things. But they don't tell you all this stuff. Some of the largest insurance firms in the U.S., New York Life, AIG, and Athena, so policies that insured slave owners would be compensated if the slave they owned were injured or killed. And these people are making billions of dollars today. By the mid-19th century, exports of raw cotton accounted for more than half of U.S. overseas shipments. What wasn't sold abroad was sent to mills in northern states, including Massachusetts and Rhode Island, to be turned into fabric. The money southern plantation owners earned couldn't be kept under mattresses or behind loose floorboard because there's so much money. American banks accepted their deposits and counted enslaved people as assets when assessing a person's wealth. In recent years, U.S. banks have made public apologies for their role they played in slavery, but they still doing the same damn thing. In 2005, they issued the apology, but they ain't getting no money. In 2005, J.P. Morgan Chase, currently the biggest bank in the United States, admitted this, y'all, that two of its subsidiaries, Citizens Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana, accepted enslaved people as collateral for loans. If plantation owners defaulted on loan payments, the bank took ownership of these slaves. They still doing the same thing. They admitted it. J.P. Morgan was not alone. The predecessors that made up Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo are among a list of well-known U.S. financial firms that benefited from the slave trade. They just didn't benefit from it. They were established off of it. Slavery was an overwhelmingly important fact of the American economy, explains Beckert, who's a professor at Harvard University. So this ain't stuff we making up. This is stuff that they have admitted. Just because you don't know it, just because you ignorant don't mean nothing. Don't get mad at us. Professor Beckert points out that while cities like Boston never played a large role in the slave trade, they benefited from the connections to slave-driven economies. New England merchants made money selling timber and ice to the South and the Caribbean. In turn, northern merchants bought raw cotton and sugar. So they say, hey, we ain't dealing with the slave thing, but we'll buy that from you, that you got from it. Slavery is so ingrained in society now that you can't even run from it. I ain't involved in it. Yes, you is. You go to Walmart. I ain't involved in it. Yes, you is. You go buy these different products, right, from these companies that got their riches and everything from slavery. You go and buying products that are made today by people that's still in slavery. It's so ingrained in society. You know what I'm saying? So let's not get it twisted. But these people took it above and beyond. I can't do nothing about it. I need a pair of drawers. I gotta go buy some drawers. And these drawers were made by a child that's in child labor. I can't do nothing about that. Now if I can get some drawers that are not made by a child that was in child labor, then so I can do something about that. I can't do nothing about my car need gas. I can't do nothing about, I need some ingredients to cook for my family or whatever. And these ingredients are coming from slave conditions. I can't do nothing about that. I can only do what I can do. I can educate you so you can make better decisions. So it says it's crazy because this is one of the points I'm going to bring up. It said New England's fabric mills played a key role in the U.S. Industrial Revolution, but their supply of cotton came from the slave-reliant South. Brands like Brooks Brothers, who are still around today, the oldest men's clothier in the U.S., turned Southern cotton to a high-end fashion. Domino Sugar, once the largest sugar refinery in the U.S., processed slave-grown sugar cane. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Because Domino's Sugar is now Domino's Food Inc. And you go to Walmart, you ever seen the sugar in Walmart? Where do you think it comes from? It comes from them, who built their wealth off of the slaves. I'm going to show you something very, very interesting about Domino Sugar. And show you that we are literally the tail and not the head. Some of you buy Domino Sugar. Some of you buy Walmart sugar. So we jump over here and it's talking about Wall Street a little bit more. And it tells us slavery was introduced to Manhattan in 1626, allegedly. Yeah, make the argument about what year, whatever, but hey. But it was not until December 13th, 1711, allegedly, that the first New York City Common Council made Wall Street the city's first official slave market for the sale and rental of enslaved Africans and Indians. Notice it separates the two of them. The sale and rental, same thing going on today. It goes on Wall Street, and it's going on in the convict lease program. The slave market operated from 1711 to 1762 at the corner of Wall and Pearls Street. It was a wooden structure with a roof and open sides, although walls may have been added over the years and could hold approximately 50 men. The city directly benefited from the sale of slaves by implementing taxes on every person who was brought and sold there. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. So it talks about how it ended up expanding. They end up coming up with these agreements, and then it says in 1792 traders formalized their association with the Buttonwood Agreement, which was the origin of the New York Stock Exchange. The idea of the agreement was to make the market more structured and without the manipulative auctions, because people would manipulate things to get what they wanted, to get more money for their slaves. But the basis of the New York Stock Exchange is slavery. So they talk about trading stocks and bonds and different things. It deals with, first and foremost, people. It deals with slavery. There's no getting around that, because these corporations, they got their money to be the corporation that they are today off of slavery. That's where you get into the whole birth certificate thing and all that other stuff. You're sitting there saying that the birth certificate ain't got nothing to do with it being a stock or a bond that can be exchanged on the stock market. But we see here that the basis of Wall Street, the basis of the New York Stock Exchange is slavery. You got to be a fool and not in. Oh, good Lord, help us, Lord, help us. So jumping back to Domino's Foods. So it says Domino Foods Inc., which is Domino Sugar, is a privately held sugar marketing and sales company based in Yonkers, New York. I wonder why. United States, that sells products produced by its manufacturing members. DFI distributes sugar to retailers under 4 brand names across the U.S. Domino, C&H, Florida Crystals, and Red Pal. I know about Florida Crystals because Florida Crystals is the organic brand, the organic branch of their sugar. And that's the sugar that I buy. So here I am buying the very sugar that I'm supposed to be owning. ain't that something? The very sugar that I'm supposed to be owning, I got to go to the store and I got to buy it. The very sugar that they built these corporations off of off the back and the blood and the lives of my ancestors, I have to go to the store and I have to buy it. Ain't that about a dang? Its namesake product, the Domino Sugar brand name, whose products are generally sold in two-tone packages, white on top, yellow on bottom. Y'all know what it is, with blue label lettering, is the best known. Domino Foods is the largest sugar company in the United States. And what we just read, they got their wealth. They are in the position that they are in now as the largest sugar company in the United States off of and from slavery. So they are still benefiting from it. People are still benefiting from that. Their families are still benefiting from that. They're taking that money. They can do whatever they want to. They're doing all type of wickedness and everything. And these other corporations are raising up and they're doing business together when that's supposed to be us. Domino Sugar is sold, a lot of it is sold in Walmart. And Walmart ain't going nowhere until God brings it down. And we know how rich the Walmart family is. And so that ties into your holidays and everything. All that stuff had to be pushed. Because what happens around the holidays? You got your cooking and stuff. You need your sugar for your desserts and all that stuff. It goes hand in hand. Because it makes them more money that they can now take and they can invest it in other stuff to make themselves richer. And the rich people have gotten so rich because of this pandemic that it is ridiculous. I did a video on that. I put it on Facebook or whatnot. But if you don't know, go look it up. Go look. Some people that were billionaires, they either doubled, tripled, or quadrupled their wealth within a year. Within a year during this pandemic. And why do we have this coronavirus? What's the real reason? Because of the rebellion of Israel. That's why black people are being affected by it at a higher rate than white people. So they got even richer off of our curses, which is what the Bible says. But people don't be thinking about that. They don't be thinking about that. But I'm gonna give you some numbers so you can see something. I'm gonna give you some numbers. So this is on the DNB.com website, Dun & Bradstreet. Some of you know about them that do business. If you don't know about them, then you can look them up. But yeah, if you in the business world, then you know about Dun & Bradstreet. So we're gonna see what they have to say. Domino Foods Inc., right? Same company we're just talking about. So we're going to go down here and look at the company profile. That's their central address, right? Right here it says company description. Domino Foods Inc. is located in Esalen, New Jersey, United States, and is part of the food wholesaler industry. Domino Foods Inc. has 1,200 total employees across all of its locations and generates $702.79 million in sales. If I'm not mistaken, this was in 2018. They generated over $700 million in sales. And you can make the argument that it was higher than that. That's not even the net worth of this company. That's not even the net worth of this company. They generated over $700 million in 2018 alone. They've been doing this for how many years? Look how much wealth that these families have generated off of the backs of slaves. Off of the backs of slaves. And y'all saying it don't matter. Let's just forget about it. No, we ain't forget. You can forget about it. I'm gonna get what's mine because that's what God promised to me. If you don't want what God promised you, I'll take your portion. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'll do something with it because you ain't doing nothing with it. I just want to show you that. I know for a fact this is 2018 alone because I read it somewhere else. But 2018 alone, they generated over $700 million. We are the tail and not the head. So I got a few more points I want to make, and then we're going to get ready to close it out. While the home ownership gap between white and black Americans is larger today than it was over 50 years ago. What did God say? He said that we were going to build houses, but we weren't going to dwell in them. We weren't going to own anything. Well, y'all didn't build the houses. The construction companies of today, they build those houses. Where did that material come from? The material came from because they were able to dominate and take over these sectors, the raw material sectors, by the money they got from the slaves. So stop it. So again, home ownership gap between white and black Americans is larger today, and this article is from August 21st, 2020, than it was over 50 years ago. Things getting better for black people. Things are getting better for black people. That's what they say. Stop it. So I'm not going to read all this article. Matter of fact, I don't think I'm going to read it. I think I just want to show you that. I did want to read this. Let me see. No, it was something else in here. Y'all give me a second. Yeah, here we go. So this guy's talking about his family home, and he's trying to keep it and everything, but it's hard for him to keep it. So he says his desire to hold on to his family's home, he says, is linked to home ownership being one of the key ways to building wealth in the U.S., which it is. The Federal Reserve reports that the average home owner in 2016, had a household wealth of $231,400. Most black people ain't seen that type of money and never will, unless somebody probably die. But the key to it is what? The average home owner. The average black person is not a homeowner. The average black person is not a homeowner. So the average homeowner, which is primarily is code words, is saying white Americans, had a household wealth of $231,400 compared to the average renter having a household wealth of just $5,200. That's about right. I can testify to that. My wealth, according to the flesh, is less than that. I'm just being real. Now my business may be worth more than that or whatnot because I got a lot tied up in my business, but I ain't got no $5,000 sitting in my pocket. Even if I did, that's still not a lot of money compared to this. Brother King, you ain't got $5,000. I may or may not, but 5,000. If I got 5,000, I got 10,000. That ain't a lot of money, bruh. Man, you can run through 5,000 to 10,000, than just taking care of a few bills. That ain't a lot of money. Why you didn't go ahead and get it? I can get it, but there's more important things. There's more important. I gotta preach. I can't spend my time going out here getting money. Oh, believe you me, I can get it. But there's more important things. So the average homeowner has a household wealth of over $200,000. $200,000. Why? Because if you own a home, you have equity in it. If you have equity in it, then you can pull the equity out of that house, and then you can go buy another property. You can go buy a rental property. You can go buy a apartment complex, and you can have people living in there and renting it out. And then they end up paying for that home, that HELOC, or the I forgot what the other one is. They end up paying for that, and then then it's free money. So then you still get to keep your house, and now you own another property, and you got somebody in there paying for that. And now you can leverage that property because you can take the equity out of that house and then do it again. Or you can turn around, you can flip it and you can sell it. Now you got all this money in your pocket, and then you can, leverage that money to make some other investments in the stock market or whatever it is. Or you can pay off something that you owe, and so you don't really have that many bills. You don't really have that many bills, so you got money sitting in the bank, and you can do what you want to with it. That's how the game goes. You can't do too much when you ain't got number $5,000 and you barely got a pot to piss in, as we say. So this is affecting who? Affecting us more. Home ownership, real estate is how most people have gotten their wealth. That's how America is built up off of, home ownership to primarily the white Americans, not the black Americans. Because if black Americans start owning more and more homes, then we're going to start to generate generational wealth, and we're like, hey, we don't need y'all. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to create our own stuff. We can try to do it or whatever, but God going to break it down. And that's what's going to happen during the time of Jacob's trouble, where the blacks are primarily going to be in positions of power and authority. And yeah, they're going to be worshiping the Antichrist as Christ. And so all this is done by design. All this is done by design. God is allowing it, but because of our disobedience, but these people have taken it far above and beyond because they're being judged too. God is saying that they're going to do the right thing. They're saying they're going to do the right thing because at this point, they know who we are. They know who we are. So you can just go on Google and you can type in African American credit discrimination. Let me get ready to close that because my battery is about to die. It says many minorities avoid seeking credit due to generations of discrimination. Lenders deny mortgages for blacks at a rate 80% higher than whites. How race affects your credit. So we talk about we can't get access to credit. We're not saying that this doesn't happen to every black person. There are black people that do get credit, but overall we don't get access to the type of money. Mortgage discrimination. Black and Latinos paying millions more in interest, study shows. Article after article. Black-owned firms are twice as likely to be rejected for loans. Modern-day redlining. Banks discriminate in lending because they know the history of it. Like, we can't get these people no money. For real. Then they're going to be home owners and stuff like that. Then we can't keep them enslaved like that. Because a lot of wealth is built through real estate. Kept out. How banks block people of color from home ownership. A troubled tale of a black man trying to refinance his mortgage. And this guy, if I'm not mistaken, he had like an 850 something credit score. It just goes on and on and on and on. Explaining the black-white home ownership gap. Predatory lending. We've discussed some of that before. How they put these loan shark places, these title places in black communities purposely. And so I want to close it out with this point right here. 90% of the world's millionaires do this to create wealth. Over the last 2 centuries, about 90% of the world's millionaires have been created by what? By investing in real estate. So if you can keep black people from getting access to that money to invest in real estate, you keep them from creating generational wealth. You see what I'm saying? So all this ties in together, going all the way back to slavery, going all the way back to what? To our disobedience, which is why we are the tail and not the head. So I listen to a lot of this real estate stuff. But when they're speaking it, I have to apply it to, black people in a way that I can understand it. Because they're not speaking it from the perspective of the typical black person. They're speaking it from the perspective of their people, because they weren't really writing this stuff to us. They were writing it to their own people. Just because of where we live in now, we have access to those books. But they're like, hey, even if they do get access to these books, they ain't gonna get access to the money. Majority of them aren't gonna get access to the money to implement majority of the stuff. Majority of them aren't gonna go through the struggle and the grind, you know what I'm saying, to get into real estate if they can't get a loan or whatever. So we're not really worried about them. That's why, you know, you hear these people talking, a lot of white people on YouTube, you know, you read their books and stuff like that. They talk about, you know, saying $200,000, $100,000 loan. And we're like, bruh, the average black person ain't got access to that type of money because they're not speaking it from our perspective. Maybe they don't even realize it. But yeah. So it all ties in together, man. We can prove over and over, any type of way you want to, that we are the people of the scriptures. And you know, if you rock with us, you rock with us. If you don't rock with us. If you rock with us, then you will receive the rewards when the time comes, when we are made the head and we are, you know, done with being the tail. And that time period is coming. That time period is coming. But if you want to rock with the people over in the land of Israel, then hey, keep on rocking with them, and you're gonna receive the judgment right along with them that they're gonna receive for lying. But yeah, I hope this video was edifying to you. I hope this gave you some things to think about. But at the end of the day, you need to get right with the Lord regardless. Black, white, whatever. You need to get right with the Lord. Because, you know, I don't want to see nobody go to hell. It's enough to go around for everybody. It's enough to go around for everybody to eat. You know, I've always had that mentality. Even when I was doing illegal stuff, I wanted everybody to eat. I want all my boys to eat. Because that's just how I am. That's just how I am. So let me get ready to close out because I don't want my phone to die. So God bless each and every one of you in Jesus Christ's name. As always, stay focused for Jesus. And as you know, the truth is not debated, it is declared.